So, welcome back to the Pursuit of Creativity. Today, we are joined by an amazing social media professor out of Niagara College. We have Julia Enns with us today. Welcome to the show.
Hi, thanks so much for having me.
I'm so excited to talk to you. We've worked together in a few different capacities and have some other connections. I'm friends with your brother and all sorts of cool things like that. But I'm so stoked to get into some of the bigger social media things with you today. But as is usual for the show, I want to kick things off with a question that kind of sets the tone for the vibe of this whole podcast, which is, what does creativity mean to you?
It's a good question because lately I feel like my creativity has felt a little bit stuck. Because being in social media now for so long, you get into those like ruts. So to me, creativity is like, I keep having to find new outlets and new things that like spark that excitement and the imagination and the fun. And I have two small kids. And to me right now, creativity is like watching the two of them pick something up and come up with like a whole imaginative story and watching their creative minds. And so getting to see creativity through their eyes and learn through them and kind of like re-spark some of that creativity that I feel like I've been lacking professionally and getting to do fun crafts with them and things like that. Right now, that's where I'm finding creativity. And it just is like always growing and evolving and what it means in different stages of life. So that's kind of what creativity means to me.
Yeah, no, that's really cool and sounds amazing. If I may ask, how old are your kids?
Yeah, I have two girls. One is 6 and one is 3.
Amazing. My sister's
Yeah.
kids are 6 and 4, so around the same age. And like last time I saw them, yeah, just to see the way that their mind works when they're exploring or trying something new is so inspiring and pure. So I wanted to ask you a question about like observing creativity, and I'm sure you do this in your work with your students as well, but like in what way does just seeing other people be creative inspire you?
Well, it just like allows you to rethink about things in a different way. And I really love it. Even yesterday, I was collaborating with a colleague who was working on something new, and she's like, "I want your feedback on this logo I'm working on." And I was like, "Oh, okay, I love this, but what about this?" And like,
Hmm.
can I play around in this for a minute? So it just, I don't know, when you feel stuck, it's so great to see what others are doing and see how other people's minds are working and how their perspectives on the same topic can be so totally different.
Yeah.
It just like, I love it in our classroom. I think some of the best times that we ever have in a classroom are when everybody works in their separate groups or individually, but when we all come together and it's like, I'm stuck on writing this caption. I'm missing this word, help. And that kind of like group work and group chatting and all of those different minds coming together becomes such a beautiful, fun, exciting thing. It's like my absolute favorite part of the job is seeing everybody getting to collaborate and do creative things.
I love that. And I mentioned this in the intro, but could you just give us a rundown of what you do for work? You're a professor, but like give us kind of the lowdown of like what you're teaching and who you're teaching.
Yeah, so I teach a social media management post-grad certificate at Niagara College. So it is an 8-month program post-grad. So it's a lot of a little bit older students or students coming right out of like university or finishing another program. And we kind of cover the basics of social media. So the first term is like covering writing and videography and social media strategies and media law and ethics and all of those like foundational pieces. So in the first
Hmm.
term, I teach social media strategies, which is like, I love it so much. Teaching strategy is my favorite thing. And then in term 2, we really start applying everything. So I teach their applied projects course where they get to do real world client projects,
Hmm.
which is also absolutely love it. And then a campaign leadership and management program or course. And then they also do things like website management, career development, and all of those things to try to get them ready for wherever life takes them. So that's the program that I teach right now. This is our like 3rd academic year.
Hmm.
And it's been a lot of fun and it's grown a ton and I really love it.
That is so cool. So, I mean, gosh, I've been out of college now for, oh my gosh, 10 years.
Yeah.
And I feel like they barely touched like scratched the surface of social media when I was there. And a lot has changed in 10 years, obviously. But could
Yeah.
you, I'm just out of curiosity, like, how did you get into teaching this program? Were they like, we need a social media program? Or were you like, hey, we need a social media program? Like, what was the thing that got it going?
Yeah, so I mean, same thing. I've been out of school for a while now, and I studied communications, and social media was like barely discussed.
Hmm.
And then I worked in social media for like big business, and the college created the program. They saw this kind of need, that this was a growing field, and it was a great way. I love the college system because it's very hands-on. So everything
Hmm.
that we're doing is hands-on, and they saw this need to be able to be good at content creation and analytics and strategy and all of those things. So the job was posted, and I applied and went through the rounds of interviews and practice teaching, and was really fortunate to be able to get the position.
That's amazing. That is really, really cool. To piggyback off of that, you're talking about a lot of, and from my perspective as someone who works in a creative field, super important skills that I think are just helpful to have in this new world that we're going into. In your opinion, do you think social media is completely necessary for businesses? And do you think social media is completely necessary for individuals that are trying to build something?
I would say 95% of the time, yes. There are probably some niche businesses that have a very local audience, and there are people that they're serving aren't on social media. They have no capacity maybe to grow beyond what they're currently doing. So for those ones, it's probably not worth the time and effort. But I would say for most people and businesses that are trying to grow whatever it is that they're doing, everybody's spending their time on social media. So if you're trying to reach those audiences, yeah. Unfortunately, you kind of have to be on it at this point. The thing that I say in my classroom all the time, and people have told me I should get a t-shirt with it on it, is know your audience.
Mm.
That's like how I start pretty much every class. It's like, okay, what are we doing today? Okay, who's our audience for whatever we're doing? Okay, we're building our strategy. Who's our business? Okay, but for this content, who's the audience for it? For this strategy, who's the audience for it? Like, who are we really trying to talk to here? So if you have an audience that's on social media that you haven't already been able to tap without social media, which probably is the case, yes, social media is not going anywhere, but you have to know the right platform, the right content, the right way to speak to your audience, and make it something that is manageable for you. Mm-hmm. It's very easy to make social media unmanageable very quickly. So if you don't keep it within a scope of something that you can be successful at, then you're kind of wasting your time, and you might not do it anyways. But if you keep it reasonable within a scope, you have a good plan, you build a strategy, then absolutely you should probably be on social media.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And to that point, you kind of touched on this a little bit. Do you have any tips for, or maybe you tell this to your students, do you have any tips for making sure that you a work-life balance is hard as it is, but when you work in social media or trying to do stuff in social media where you have to be on the platforms, do you have any tips for figuring out the best way to not, end up in these deep canyons of spending hours and hours and hours on the platforms that can be great, but also obviously have a lot of negatives?
Yeah, it's really hard, and not something I have completely mastered at this point, to be honest. So if you have tips, I'd love to hear them as well. But one of the things that I make sure to tell my students, because I've been at a point of burnout many times in my career, because it doesn't stop.
Yeah.
The day-to-day keeps going. The content creation has to keep going. The managing customer questions and concerns, they come in at all hours. You may or may not have a big team or a small team. It may just be you. You have to learn to put up boundaries and be able to communicate kind of your needs with your manager, your coworkers, have somebody to switch on and off with, or just be like, no, after 9 o'clock at the end of the day, this is social media. I'm not a heart surgeon. And if I turn my phone off as a heart surgeon and I have to go perform surgery and I'm not there, that's a big problem. If I'm not checking my phone after 9 o'clock at night, hopefully it will be okay until the morning, right? For the most part, we can shut off. It's a really hard thing though. And I recommend my students check in, make sure you're taking breaks. Anytime that you're feeling like you're really getting burned out, you have to remember at the end of the day, this is social media. If you stop posting, if you need to take a break on your personal stuff for a month, take a break, right? The algorithms might mess with you for a bit, but eventually you'll work back into it and you'll make better content when you're not burned out and it's being fun again and it doesn't feel monotonous and hard. So taking care of yourself. And other than that, I still spend too much time on my phone. So if you have any tips, I would love to hear them. I try to put my phone away from me is the one thing, out of sight, out of mind, but it's hard.
It's hard.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm right there with you. My screen time, I'll put it this way, I'm not sharing my screen time with anybody because it's a little rough to say the least. And I think you kind of touched on it. I've been trying this month, kind of like a 2025 thing, to do the first 2 hours without social media during the day. And that's been really great for like a morning routine of, working out and, journaling and reading. And that's been really nice. And then trying not as successfully to like the last half hour or last hour to not look at social media. And that's pretty much as far as I've gotten, is trying to make that, I guess you can kind of say self-care, like just like taking a separate break, because during the day I'm on it because of my job and because of the things that we create. And then I also have this idea, which actually will lead to another question I have for you, where I've been trying to create more than I consume, which is hard because consuming is so easy, but making stuff is obviously way more intensive. But that has been spending more time making stuff, which is then cuts down on social media screen time. So that's been an interesting thing I'm trying out this month as well, which leads me to my question for you, which is, as a social media professor, do you make your own content, or is that something you're exploring or want to do or have any interest in? Because I know, it's like that old adage of like the painter that like doesn't have like his house painted or whatever, like the people used to say. But I'm curious for you, like as far as, do you do social media as a social media professor?
He barely. I have ideas of doing more with it and creating more with it. But to be honest, on like my pecking order of things that I need to get done, it's been building this program over the last 3 years. It's been having 2 children. It's been trying to take care of like my health and my mental health and my house not to look like a tornado has run through it every single day. It's been eating healthy. So it's kind of fallen down. I am trying to get back into it a little bit more here and there, because it's the fun part of it that I don't get to do as much. I'm actually meeting up with a colleague this afternoon we're going to do a photo shoot together
Fun.
at a restaurant. And so she's going to let me like play around with her camera and do some of those things I haven't done since college, which is a long time ago now. So I'm really excited to do that, and starting now that I feel like I'm more in the rhythm of teaching and I feel pretty confident in what I'm doing and how I'm doing it, I have more time to really start building my own skills again to also help my students. So I'm hoping to get into it a little bit more than I have been.
Yeah, totally. And this is something I've asked a lot of different people over the years is, do you enjoy making stuff for social media, or do you find it like just something you have to do? Because I've talked to people who are like, I do it because I have to, because it's part of my business. But then like myself, I enjoy making videos, and you're just mentioning photography. So is that something you like and want to do more of, or something you feel like you have to?
And when I went to school, I had a communications degree, but I did like kind of film studies, and I made a documentary.
Cool.
And so I do enjoy that kind of thing, but it's gotten pushed to the back burner, and I do enjoy taking photos. For somebody who loves getting up and talking in front of people, I hate making content of myself.
Sure.
And so that's something I'm trying to get over a bit. So I love part of it. I love the creativity part of it, but I do struggle with it at some points. I love the strategy part of social media the most, and coming up with the ideas and then working with other people to execute it. The part of like making my own social media content that feels hard is that I don't have anyone to really bounce the ideas off of.
Yeah.
And I'm a very creative person where I really like the back and forth of creating content. And really doing anything. So that's the part I think that I struggle with, is that I get too far in my own head, and then I'm like, oh, this is silly. And then I just never post anything.
Totally. I completely relate to that, because like at work, I have my coworkers, like we are brainstorming all day long, and then I come home and I'm like, it's just me. Like who's anybody? No, just me still. Okay, great. And so like one thing I did a couple days ago is I went to like a creator meetup, because I was like, I need to find people that I can do this with. But all I have to say, my next question for you is, outside of social media and working to make more content, do you have other creative outlets that you really enjoy doing?
I enjoy decorating my house a lot. I am an aspiring DIYer that doesn't have enough money or tools to do all the things that I would love to do, but I really like paying attention to home design and redoing small spaces in our house. I've done most of it at this point. And so I really like doing that. I enjoy doing things like some embroidery here and there when I have time. I like to run. I don't know if that's really a creative outlet,
I'm
but
gonna say that's a creative outlet.
I started like really seriously running almost 2 years ago now, and the wonders that it has done for me to like push myself and get myself like away from screens and people and be good with being alone in my own brain. And I
Mm,
definitely come up with like content ideas like while I'm running or like lectures. And I just like do lectures in my head while I'm running.
yeah.
So that's been a really great outlet for me that has like pushed me to do more creative things and has pushed, I would just say like my life in general in a healthier, better, happier direction. So yeah, running, I think probably is my biggest creative outlet at the moment.
Yeah, no, I want to like tap into that for a second because I feel the same way. Like I know we were talking before. You said you're training for half marathon. I'm training for half marathon. So we're running. We're out there. We're
Yeah.
we're putting in miles. And I think there's something so nice. It's almost like meditative where you are just like zoned in to doing something, which then allows you to like let your mind be creative and think in a way that you can't get when you're just sitting at home or you're doing whatever. So I'll dub it as a creative act that like opens the door. So I'm right there with you. I love it. It's been really helpful for that kind of stuff for me as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And like after you get that long run high of and you come home, you're like, okay, I can do anything. I can like rush through, like I've got all these ideas now. So yeah, running has been such a great outlet and I'm glad that you're enjoying it too.
Yeah, yeah, the endorphins kick in. You're like,
Yeah.
I feel the power, and then you like have to like ice your knees. And anyways, so one thing I wanted to ask, what are the kind of questions that your students are bringing up around social media or creating content or anything in that realm that might be helpful for people to hear in this context?
This is a good question. The group of students that I have right now has been asking some like really amazing questions. And it's been like such a delight. I'm a little bit behind on my lectures this term because we've just had so many good conversations. So right now, the like strategy course that I'm teaching, we're really getting into starting to talk about like, how do we think about who our audiences are? What is our goals? How does it tie into bigger business pictures? And then I also teach this campaign leadership and management class that I really love. And I've really tried to get people to think about their own leadership styles because you have to be a leader to be in social media, I think.
Mm,
Maybe less so now, but when I was starting in social media, it wasn't something that people really understood and knew the benefits of and wanted to put money towards or effort or energy or those sorts of things. And social media doesn't live in a silo. We have to
mhm,
be aware of like what our bigger business goals are. How do we tie into that? How do we make sure that like everybody is giving the same messaging and we're communicating? So I really believe you have to be a leader and a strong communicator with like all levels within a business. Because if
mhm,
I'm communicating something on social media that's not the same message that our frontline staff is giving or our VP agrees with, that becomes a big brand and business problem. So we've really been having a lot of discussions around that and questions about like how do you become a leader and what's important? How do you have those tough conversations and how do you get people to work with you and like not against you and explain
mhm,
kind of why we're doing what we're doing? Other questions are thinking about like how do we write content based on the different audiences that we're talking to? How do we look at like a business that maybe has, we've been talking about audience personas. How do we
mhm.
look at a business that has like 6, 7, 8 different audience personas and think about how we're writing to those ones? And are we writing content to specific ones? Are we writing general that maybe covers 3? Are we on multiple platforms? Are some platforms just for one audience? So kind of figuring out the nuances there is something that we've had a lot of questions and talking about lately.
Yeah, and for those who don't know, could you just break down what an audience persona is?
Yeah, absolutely. So when you're looking at whoever your audience is, depending on what your business is, you likely have different subsets of audiences. For example, you're a restaurant. Your Monday to Thursday, 5 o'clock crowd is probably a little bit different than potentially your Friday, Saturday, Sunday, 9 to midnight crowd. So the
Hmm.
way that you're going to want to sell your restaurant or your business or the offerings during those times, you're going to be talking to slightly different audiences. How do we do that through social media? So how do we create content and write and design content that speaks to that crowd? And right now I am that Monday through Thursday, 5 o'clock crowd. I
Yeah.
used to be that weekend crowd. But how do we talk to those audiences? What are they looking for? What are their pain points? Where do they get their information? What times are they on social media? So it's really building, it's getting a really good understanding of who that audience is. And you want to do that through knowing them based on your social media that they interact with, what kind of questions they ask, any business information that you have. You
Mm.
can do surveys, any of that. So, any of your business data. And then thinking about, okay, what platforms are they on? What kind of content are they consuming? How do we want to speak to them? What kind of offers or deals might we be offering them through social media? They would be different, right? I'm not probably offering $5 well drinks at 4:30 on a Wednesday, whereas I
Yeah.
might be offering that on a Saturday night after 9 o'clock or whatever, right? So thinking about those different things and building audience personas, I find it's really helpful when you're creating content to think about who you're talking to. So we
Hmm.
like to put a face to who those audiences would be. So it's like, okay, would Julia relate to this content? I don't know. She doesn't really know how to say slay or and Riz. She doesn't understand what that
Yeah.
lingo means. We're not talking to Julia about those things, but we might use some of that terminology in a post that's geared towards a younger audience. So I just find having that face and thinking about things when you're feeling stuck making content can really make it more like you're having a conversation with something. Okay, like this person's pain points are, we got to get in and out at 5 o'clock for a quick meal. Kids are hungry. What do they need? Versus like the evening crowd would be different.
Amazing. Yeah, no, I love that. And thank you for diving into that. The whole persona thing, I think, is something that creators of all levels, business people, all the things can do. Like I've done that for this podcast. I've done that for all my own content. So I appreciate the extra explanation there. But you mentioned something in the first half of some of the questions you said your students had that I wanted to go back to, whereas you're saying like you have to be a leader to be a social media person, and those messages have to align with what the people in your business are doing. So I wanted to talk in a literal sense about leader and leadership and people in maybe those higher up positions. And can you talk to or dive in or even just like explore the idea, like, do you think they should be doing more on social media, like people in those C-suite positions? Like, do you find it useful for let's say a CEO to have a social media presence, or do you think it's good if you have it but not necessary?
I think it probably depends on your business and your audience and the CEO. Is it somebody who's
Mm.
going to come across as relatable and something that your audience is interested in? Yeah, maybe if you can work them in, maybe work them into your own content. But if it's somebody who you're, I don't know, a youth apparel brand and your CEO is always in a suit and is 65 years old and isn't relatable to that audience, again, it all comes back to like knowing who your audience is, right?
So one thing you mentioned, you love strategy. And I think that's such an important part of social media in general. Another way I think you could like couch it is like problem solving. So can you just talk about how you could use social media as a tool for problem solving in your business or personal life or anything like that?
This is absolutely my favorite part of social media. I love going in, and this is why I love our Apply Projects course, but I love going in and looking at like a small business in particular and saying like, okay, what are your needs? And how is this something that we can solve through social media? So whether like it's awareness or it's really telling your brand story, you have something unique to share with people, then can build and grow your business. I just love strategy. There are so many ways to solve problems.
Mm.
And it might not always be that very first thing that comes to mind. I've always been somebody who like I love problem solving. And social media just has so many different opportunities to solve problems. Like you can buy ads if you want to buy ads to hit a really niche market because you need to grow your awareness or sell your products or I don't know, build a community. If you need a community, you're feeling like you're lacking one, maybe in person. I have met some of my best friends through social media, through different communities. I have found niche Facebook communities for, I really like barefoot shoes, and they're
Hmm.
really hard to find and whatever. So I have a niche community that I have found about barefoot shoes, made real friends through social media. So for personally, I've used it to make those connections to like satisfy a need in myself of struggling to
Mm.
find in this day and age. It's harder to find people. But for a business, there are so many opportunities to use social media for whatever it is you're trying to achieve.
Yeah, no, I love that. And I totally agree. And I like what you said about using it as a personal problem solving tool. Like you don't have to like just be, beholden to the algorithm. You can go and search out those pockets of the internet that actually can serve you and like, you know, create community like what social media was, I feel like, originally intended to do, minus being these like microcosms of like chaos, you know? So I love that. And I think that's maybe something people should take away from this like you can use it the way you want to solve your own problems. Like that's cool. Like I really like that thought process.
Yeah, that's, I don't know, that's kind of the beauty of social media. And one thing I kind of always start my classes with, I have this picture that I posted, I think in 2010 on Instagram. And it
Wow,
says
that
like
is
life
amazing.
without, I know, a long time ago with my square and my border and all of
Yeah.
those things. And it says something, it's outside of a cafe in Burlington, Vermont. And it says something about like Nutella makes life better, something along those lines. And I just posted it because I thought it was fun and I love Nutella and I love milkshakes and whatever. And it turned out that my roommate from school, after we had graduated, knew that shop, messaged me, was in Burlington, was like, hey, are you in Burlington? And we ended up meeting up and getting together. And so like, I always go back to that story when I think about the good of social media. That's what it's really there for. Driving those connections, whether it's through business, making connections with businesses that matter to you, that align with your values, that you can support. Like I love supporting small businesses that I love on social media. And when you have connections now kind of with the owners and you become a
Hmm.
little cheering squad for them almost because you
Yeah.
believe so much in what they're doing. So I really believe that the best in social media is when we can create those connections. So whether that's personal or for business, trying to put as much positivity into social media as humanly possible, which sometimes feels so hard to not get dragged down by all the negativity. But if we show up with positive, good intentions and we find those pockets of social media or we work to create those pockets of social
Hmm.
media, that's when it's at its best, when it's driving that real, genuine human connection, even though it's through a screen, but it can become real connection.
I love that. Yeah, 100% agree. It can be what we want it to be, but we do have to do the work.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, a recurring segment on this podcast is what I like to call, actually, I don't have a good name for it, so I'll have to work on that. But it is basically, I love to give our guests their flowers and give them a chance to boast or brag or celebrate a creative win or something cool that's happened in their life recently. So, if there's anything that's happened recently that you want to brag about or you're excited about that you feel like telling the audience, I would love to hear what that is.
My 6-year-old just had a birthday party that was mermaid themed. Um,
Ooh,
and I made a mermaid themed cake. Like I made a mermaid tail and it took way too much time and multiple coats of icing of being like, no, that looks terrible. Let me try something else. But that felt like a big, fun, creative outlet win. And I also made, I really hate goodie bags for children's, which maybe makes me a monster. Giving people or getting a whole bunch of like plastic from the dollar store, like nobody needs that. So I made braids with my oldest daughter and like with clips. So we made mermaid multicolored yarn braids. And
that's so
those were
fun.
like the goodie bags. So maybe that's like my kind of fun, creative win that I've done lately. Those are the little like creative outlets that I'm really finding joy in lately.
Yeah.
So I'll take that as my win, I think.
That is a huge win. That is not some, and that's so amazing. I mean, I don't know if I have never really tried to ice a cake because I know how hard it is. So to make a mermaid cake that like was this amazing thing for your daughter, like that's awesome. So kudos to you. That's really cool and creative. So I think, pat yourself on the shoulder.
Okay.
That's a good one. To round out the end of this episode, one thing I want to do is I'm hoping tons of people were inspired. We basically got a free lecture from you, which is like amazing. People, this costs more than what you're getting for free right now. So if you had 3 tips for people that might have been inspired from this episode, tips, ideas, anything along those lines, what would they be?
My tried and true tip is know your audience. This goes on social media. This goes to speaking in a room of people. This goes to speaking one-on-one with people. Really understanding who you're talking to, what their goals and motivations are, why they are where they are. Um, it's going to get you a long way.
Mm-hmm.
If you really like tune into the people that you're trying to give a message to, that's going to get you really far. And no matter what you're doing, knowing your audience and who they are. So that would be number one. Number two, I think be kind to yourself. It's hard. The world feels hard. Social media feels hard. It can be heavy. You're not going through it alone. And the more we can be kind and talk nicely to ourselves, then the more we can talk nicely and be kind to others around us. And being kind to ourselves means like saying, no, I need to put my phone down. Boundaries are kind. You can be kind and strong at the same time. Being kind doesn't mean being weak. So being kind to yourself, making yourself a priority, your health, what you're eating, mentally what you're doing. And then it allows us to put more kindness back into the world when we're putting it into ourselves first. Tip number 3, I don't know, do good.
I like that.
Like do good.
Honestly, sadly, we need more people to hear a
Right?
message like that.
Do good. And that can be doing good on social media, and that can be just like cheering somebody on. Like, think about how good a positive comment makes you feel. Think about how making that connection with somebody makes you feel. Hold a door for somebody, donate to something, go out of your way to be kind and caring, have a little extra empathy. This is kind of going, I'm going to get sidetracked here for a second, but like one of my favorite parts of my job right now is that I have so many different students in age, in demographics, in skill sets, in past experiences that I get to learn from them as well. And I think often we forget that it's important to keep listening to others and have those conversations. And everybody has such a different lived experience. And doing good to the world is listening to those experiences and having those conversations and being able to understand, like, yeah, my perspective is not the only perspective. So I love that about the students that I'm teaching. I've learned so much from them, and it's been so cool. I've had people who have been from a law background, or people coming back from doing a second career, and teachers and photography students and graphic design, and like own their own business. It's been amazing. And so lately to them, because we've been talking a lot about social media news, my biggest thing back has been like, just do good and be positive and put the good you can put into the world, both on social media and in day-to-day life. So that's something I'm trying to do as much as humanly possible lately.
Those are really good. And like beyond this, creativity podcast, just good things to do in general. Like I think that's like a really wonderful note to end on. So I really appreciate you sharing those 3 tips. I think that the audience will definitely take that to heart. So
I hope so.
They do. They will. They will. No. This has been an amazing chat. I'm so glad you're able to join. So I just want to say thank you for being on the Pursuit of Creativity.
Thanks so much for having me. It was such a pleasure to get to have this conversation with you today.
Thank you so much for joining me for yet another episode of The Pursuit of Creativity. If you enjoyed this conversation, if you got something from it, be sure to leave a like, a comment, a review, a rating, share it with a friend. Any interaction is incredibly helpful, and I would really appreciate it. For more updates, be sure to subscribe to my Substack newsletter. It's called Small Steps. You'll get a weekly dose of intentional conversation about bettering and improving ourselves and our community. All these things will be linked in the show notes, of course. So once again, my name is Ike Ajvan. I appreciate you so much. Thank you for being here. And as usual, stay optimistic. Better days are coming.